Okay, so here we are on a deck that we're working on, and I just want to show you that we've had to manufacture these wedge-shaped pieces in order to get our slope a little bit better than it was before. So what we did was we set up a string line at 1.5 inches here, down to nothing there, 1.5 inches here, down to nothing down there, and we got our measurements, and we brought an as-built and into the shop, and I'm going to show you an easy way to cut these long wedge-shaped strips in the shop quickly and easily. Okay, on occasion we have to rip long wedges, and in this particular case it's for slope on a deck for a very specific application. And so I'm going to show you how to do that now. What we have here is a 2x10 piece of dimensional lumber that we're going to use, and we're going to rip it from 0 to whatever we need down there on the butt, which is 1.5 inches. I've already cut the board to length. In this case it's 177 inches. One of the tricks is setting this up for multiple rips. In this particular case what I've done is I've set a string line up with some spacers, and this is the piece that's going to go against the fence. The first rip is to straight edge rip the outside of this 2x10 so we can get a straight line, and then we'll cut the wedge, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. Okay, so I've measured the same distance on either end. In this case it's 9 3/4 here, 9 3/4 there, and I'm going to secure this 2x4 with screws all the way down. I'll secure each end first, and I'll show you why in a second. We put this screw in here, so now we're static on each end. The other thing now is we'll take my third wedge, which is the same size as these, and I'm going to go along, and I'm going to secure this. In this case I've got to go in, and I'm going to line up the string all the way down. And then now, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to set the fence in the saw. It's got 9 3/4 here. This has got a big bow in it, so we're going to probably go 9 inches. And we're going to run this in the table saw. Now is absolutely straight. So now we're going to adjust our 2x4 to the wedge. I'll show you that in a second. Okay, now I have measured to the 2x4 on this end, which is going to be 0. So the wedge is going to come down to nothing here. This is 5 1/4. Down on this end, I've measured back 1.5 inches here, because this is the butt of our wedge, which is going to be 1.5 inches, and from here to the side of the 2x4 is also 5 1/4. So now all I need to do is, before I run it through the saw, is secure our board with our wedge here, and make sure it's straight all the way. Now we're straight. So what I'm going to do is I have to adjust the fence of the saw. And what we do is we measure to this side here to here. I've got 8 3/4 inches. Now the trick to this is that the saw blade needs to be on this side of the line, because the meat that you want is going to be on this side of the saw blade. So again, we're at 8 3/4. So I'm going to set the fence at 8 3/4, and I'm going to measure it to the blade, and 8 3/4 to this side of the blade. Now all we have to do is make our cut, and it will be a nice straight wedge. With a straight edge cut here, we know that our wedge is going to work out. So after I rip it and the piece warps and bends, that's okay, because we started with a static piece. So here we go. And now, as you can see, there's our wedge right there. From 0 to that end, both sides are straight, both sides are static, 1.5 inches to 0 down there. And of course this may not look like 1.5 inches here, because actually I wanted 1.5 inches at this length. This is the last rip that I did. Now come over here and take a look at all these rips. Okay, as you can see, I have made a whole lot of wedges. We're working on a deck that has a graduated slope in each direction. So each one of these is started at a different size, all the way down to 0 on the other end, all the same length, and so each one has to go through the same procedure that I just showed you. Okay, and so this is how you can get accurate rips for a wedge. In this case, it's a slope on a deck, and we'll show you the installation of our long wedge strips in a little bit. Okay, I want to show you how we have installed these now that we're done in the shop. We actually have our first piece of plywood here installed, and it gives you a pretty good view of the wedge shape. You can see that the space gets smaller and smaller down below. Now, in this case, it wasn't feasible to take out the shiplap floor, which is why on occasion you've got to cut long strips. I would have preferred to do I would have preferred to take the floor out, but in this case we couldn't do it. So here we are. These are installed, but I want to point out there's a full trowel glue underneath these all the way along. Plus we've screwed these about every 8 inches or so down through the shiplap into the joints, so it's a real solid piece. When we put in our tongue and groove plywood, we also have glue and screws so that everything is solid. It's not going to squeak. And this is how you do this in this particular type of application. So in any case, wanted to show you this, and we'll see you on the next project here at Westbrook Restoration's Built to Withstand. Bye now.